G'day, welcome back to Project Brupeg, story of a sunken fishing trawler converting into a global expedition and research boat. Today we're back on our arms. I need to get the drill press going again so that we can make sure our 32mm holes are able to be drilled through our top plates and the stabiliser arms. So in the workshop ground, we need to put our drill press together. So if you remember last time we were looking at this drill press, this top section here basically died on us. So we need to essentially make sure that that is strong enough to handle the 32mm drill that we've got running in the drill press at the moment, and it's a common drill we use on this. It's way bigger than what this drill press can probably deal with, but we do have a plan to make this pretty strong. My plan's pretty simple. Basically take the pulley, 8mm rod, drill a hole through where the old grub screws used to go. So we're going to use, what one is it, that one there, we're going to drill a hole through that guy. Just push this all the way through. So we'll be drilling an 8mm hole onto the shaft of the drive on the drill press. See if that works. Okay, the plan, 7.5mm drill, 8mm rod. So I'm going to drill this at 7.5 and I'll drill the other side at 8mm, and that way this will be my interference fit to hold it in there, so I won't have to do any threads or Loctite or anything weird like that. So let's give it a go and see if it works. Is that even going through? Yes, it is. Well, that's lovely. We'll just keep doing that. That worked. Need a tiny bit more length. Yep. Lovely. Now, this is the bit that I don't necessarily know how to do. Right, how am I going to do this without getting crap everywhere? I wonder if we can just do that. Maybe it'll suck it upwards. Now that we've got that, I think that worked. Oh, you beauty. Vacuuming steel uphill. Right, get the rest of it up. See if this harebrained idea worked. Need a light. I'm thinking making the end of this 8mm bar like quite a taper, then I'll be able to drive it all the way through and it'll just sort of jiggle things around because they're slightly misaligned, which is fine. I think I can knock that through and solve that. Alright, magnet, pulley, thingy in the middle, we need to lock it up. Bonsai! This is my little gadget that's going to do it. So I've got a tapered end on one side, and then I just clean the end up on the grinder on that side so that I can knock it in. I'm going to push it in that top hole. It's going to jiggle. The first hole's fine. It's going to jiggle through and line up with the second and the third and fourth hole, and then line those two up properly. I'm going to knock it on home with this thing. Let's see if we got a drill press. I've made it small enough so that it's difficult to use and fiddly, which is always something you look for in this sort of repair. Get in there, you mongrel. Right, let's see if that works. Right, slow. And let's get you going slow too. Moment of truth. That's a positive sign. It's the first time it's ever done that. Right, so we need more holes at the back. Fine, we can deal with that. Fire in the hole. Well, that's new. Alright, we can work around it anyway. So the motor doesn't have enough grunt, but that's okay, we can still do these holes. Alright, it worked. I realised why it was chattering and being such a mongrel to drill with. I pulled the drill back out and had a look at the ends and the tips and everything like that. It was theoretically looked good, like it hadn't been changed since when we bought it from the shop, and there was no chips or anything like that on the cutting edges. However, the trailing edge was higher than the cutting edge, so it was bouncing around like 40 bastards. So I sharpened it myself, gave it a bit of a clean up, and now it's unbelievable. It cuts so beautiful now, it's awesome. So this is cutting post sharpening. There's virtually no chatter. It's just cutting beautiful. And this drill's probably 3 times bigger than what this drill press was ever designed for. Whoop whoop. 2 holes. Alright, let me show you what we've got. 4 holes, magicked up. So time to go and start sticking these guys on the boat now. Go see what Jess is doing. What are you up to? Crikey. This is somewhat of a bomb site. What are you building?
Just cleaning up. Everything just gets shoved anywhere, but look at the rig on that. I'm just gonna... Bloody hell.
This is our stabilizer.
Wow, it looks
it's
amazing.
Bit of a doozy. Look, it's pretty cool. You
Whoa!
get cool smooth video with it.
It's awesome. I'll just turn it off. Oh, yeah, so I'm cleaning up finally because we've got the bedroom starting to get all sorted out throughout the boat. That means everything that got sort of put anywhere is getting sorted. So I'm taking my time, doing a little bit sitting, doing a little bit sitting, getting used to this reduced health, and it's all good.
Nice.
Little bits at a time, and I'm all good. You look like you're having a lot of fun. Are you, do you have like, I haven't had a good look at this, have you got like...
Yeah.
You can turn off and on the rig, or?
Yes, I have it. The rig has batteries.
Okay, I'm going to have to
video.
again.
There's batteries inside these handles, and I've got a trigger on the front.
So the batteries are running the rig?
Yes, and
Okay.
the camera's separate.
You've got the batteries in here for the camera?
Normal camera battery,
Yeah.
normal microphone battery, normal rig battery. So there's a trigger on the front here, and what that does is if I want to focus on one thing, so I'm just going to focus on something on the wall, I push the trigger, and then I can do anything I want, and see the camera's moving around.
Right, so holding your finger down holds the focus?
Yeah, so I'm basically pointing. It doesn't matter what I do, the camera's not going to move. It's always going to stay
Wow.
on the pointing at that thing, and then I can release it, and the camera can pan. So if I want to do nice smooth pans,
Yeah.
I just have my finger off it, and if I want to lock on something, I can just...
Have you got on off on the rig, or do you have to turn still off?
No, I have
and
it.
on the camera?
So you can see here I got 3 buttons. I got button at the bottom, which is if I have this Bluetooth to the camera, I can press it and it'll take a still photo. If I press this one here, this is on off, and I can also adjust settings with this, so I can get it to over, and that one's a joystick. So I'm pushing down on the joystick. I push to the right. See that?
So subtle movement.
Subtle movement, so I can adjust, fine tune sort of thing. So just going to ground this bit here so we can try and get a bit of, get some of the clearance out when we make this up like that. We're going to clean off the rust on this doubler here so that we're ready to start tacking this in properly. But yeah, we're pretty much ready. Our measurements are sorted and everything seems to be working the way that it should. So we'll get this rust cleaned up and we'll start getting some stainless welding done. This is what it's like on Brupeg sometimes. So like this is our lounge. We have welding gear, air stuff, more air stuff, random bottle of argon, a household vacuum cleaner, because obviously this is a house, camera stabilization gear, TIG welders, another welder, a whole bunch of strops and sanders and things like that, a stray cat, some winches that are yet to be fitted, batteries that are being charged for drills, 4,000 ventilation masks, a couple of exhaust flexi joints, and some pipes that are waiting to be TIG welded. And thankfully my co-conspirator here is pretty much just as likely as me to drag a MIG welder through the lounge as I am.
So true.
Rightio, welder is set. We have our 309 wire. I've got it set up for MIG. I'm about to blast the stainless to the mild onto the doubler there, and then also I'll tack, just with 309 wire, I'll tack the mild steel to the arms and then yeah, swap it over. So I've got to basically go back and forth between flux core wire and 309 stainless wire. So we'll get stuck into it. We're ready to go. Turn the 14 down to...
Yep.
I'm going to take all of the mild steel and everything, stuck the threaded rod and all that sort of stuff out of the place now, and then I'll strip the whole lot down, because then I'll be able to get my grinder in there and clean it all up and get a really good root run from the stainless. Got rid of the sliders. Now it's time to weld these stainless pads in fully. So what I've done is basically run a bead down either side. So I want to grind that right back, so I've got a really small root run in each of those weld areas, and then I will get rid of everything out the way. We'll move this out the way and we'll have a clear run all the way around, and we'll get a maybe 3 runs around each of those pads. And it's going to hold them on nice and firmly onto the doubler, onto this piece of steel right here. For those not familiar with welding really thick steel, so in our case thick steel is 25mm, our welder is capable of doing 8mm maximum in one pass, but we can weld 25mm steel if we do more than one pass. So in this case we're going to be doing 3 passes, so you can think of it like 3 times 8, and that's the maximum amount of steel that you can run with 3 passes. If you want to go thicker than that, you just keep running more and more beads. So you stack them up into the corner of the join, so you have your root run, which is the first run that you do. You grind that back so you've got a nice clean sort of radius of steel, and then you run 2 passes over top of that, and that's basically strong enough to hold these onto the deck the way that we need it. So a little trick that I was shown years ago by a Boilermaker, when you're trying to do your root run, you want to grind it out so you got the radius of the weld as opposed to a bulbous weld sticking out. You want the weld to fuse in, but you don't want all that extra material in there when you're trying to do your 2 capping runs over top. So he said get an old 6mm grinding disc, a worn out one like this guy here, because the end of it, when you're looking at it that way, is generally radiused off, so they're not square and sharp and all that sort of stuff. And there's a reason you want the old radiused one. I'll show you why. So that's a pretty manky big old weld. What I need to do is get it so that it's capable of having 2 decent welds over top of it. By using the 6mm worn out disc, I can get a really clean radius like that. So that allows me to put 2 capping welds over top of that. That's the same weld basically being ground off on the other side. So that's a really easy weld to cover over with 2 nice capping welds over top of that. They're done. They're ground up lovely. You can sort of see. There we go. Woo! I kept sliding off the wing when I was down there grinding on the outside, so I strapped a little block of wood. If you can see that block of wood with a green strap there to the wing, which is awesome little footrest. So that's all set up, ready to go. I'm going to get in with the welder now, buzz around all 4 sides, and I'll do that. Would have got 3 runs, so we get 9 times. Get that in, and then we're welding the 20mm plate onto the arms. That's 3 lovely big beads all the way around those stainless pads. So what have we got? Probably, I'd say 3.5 inches there, 3.5 inches there, and call that maybe 2.5 inches. So what's that? 3.5, 6, 7 plus 5, 13 inches of weld times 3. That's how much weld we've got on each one, and roughly weld will hold a ton per inch. So they're going to be pretty tough, pretty strong. If they come off, there's a good chance we've sunk the boat or snapped something major. Happy with that?
Yeah, I am. They're beautiful. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yep.
Look at this little monster. Day 2. Our jobs today, get the welder set up so that we can get these sliders tacked in and then fitted properly. We'll weld them in properly, but to do that we need to recess the roof. So this morning's job, I'm going to clean up the steel on the deck. I'll clean up the stainless that we welded in yesterday, stress relieve the corners, all that sort of stuff, and then we'll start getting that top plate fitted to the arms. Once we've done that, the sliders are then ready to recess and weld on.
Pretty good.
I've got those 2 stainless washers welded onto the mild steel now. I did that so that we can protect the paint on that mild steel. So every time we crank these nuts or bolts up, we're probably going to be using bolts in the end. Every time we crank them up, we're going to rip the paint off if we don't have something. So that's what they're there for. I'll give them a flapper wheel just to make sure that those welds are lower than the surface of the 316 washers. But the plan now, I need to go through with my flux core wire and weld the arm onto that 20mm stainless. So we'll burn in a couple of pretty big hot welds around that because that has to be pretty beefy.
for us to make it through the night. Stormy weather, weary eyes, hope to make it through the night. Before this night is over, I will guide you home. All this time you thought we'd never pay the price.
There we go. You are looking at the arms bolted down properly on Brupeg for the first time. So you can sort of see there's a bit of slack in that line there. This one here, sort of floppy, nothing really holding it. The safety lines, you can see there's slack in those. There's nothing else underneath the wing. That's how it's going to sit in the deployed position. So now we need to figure out our sliders so we can get this thing up above the roof. What I'm thinking, I've got a big tarp up the side of the boat that hangs from the roof all the way down. So I'm thinking about throwing that over the side so that we can catch any sparks and carrying on. But I'll probably use the plasma to cut this, because then I can fire all of the rubbish straight down onto the deck rather than grind it and have it go everywhere. Because if you look beside us, there's a shiny white fiberglass boat right next to us, and I don't really want to be responsible for turning it rust coloured. While we're up here, this gives you an idea of where we are. So Brupeg's wheelhouse. Right, and over the back you can see there's heaps of boats stored in various spots throughout the yard. So that's a storage yard. There's plenty of boats that come in from the South Pacific in cyclone season and hide out in Bundaberg because we're below the cyclone line. Over the back of the work yard, there's a big blue shed. That's where they build catamarans, and you can see one poking out just around the corner there. There's a massive catamaran they're working on at the moment. It's a pretty awesome looking beast. A couple of boats here getting worked on, and then those blue sheds there, open top sheds, they're sandblast bays. That's where we get our sandblasting done when we move Brupeg. There's a big paddock in front of Brupeg at the moment. They often land helicopters down there, so pretty much right in front of us is a landing spot, and they use that for people coming in and out of the marina, which is just over the road here. So you've got spots to park your boat in the water over there. You can see in the distance that all the way down there is a river. It's a saltwater river basically, but and the reason it's saltwater is because the sea is pretty much right there. So it's only, I don't know, half a mile down the road that way and you're in there. So I got my little cave of doom set up. I'm thinking I'll be plasmaing. You can sort of see just above the roof there. I'm going to be plasmaing through there and firing all the goo down into this area here. But I've tarped up like this so that we don't get anything over this boat beside us, because we're pretty close. We're probably only, I don't know, 12 feet away from that boat, something like that. But in here, we're pretty much safe. So our roof above us here is what's going to be blasted out, and I'll be pushing this out like that to gain a little bit of room, but all of our stuff, all the swarf and all that sort of stuff is just going to be fired straight down onto this area here.
Our sorrows too. No more clouds, no more rain.
Alright, easy bit's done. Now I've got to get through the bits that are a bit challenging. So I need to cut through this rib, and then also this here. It's basically 100mm by 6mm flat bar. I need to cut through that as well. But I was avoiding grinder as much as I could because of the neighbour's boat. So I think we've got enough that we can probably chop into this. I'm thinking we'll be okay with the grinder in here, because obviously with the tarp up we've got a bit of a grinding cave going on. We can probably get into there good enough. It's out. So this has been plasmed around this edge, and this has been cut with a 1mm cut off disc. People often ask us why we don't use the plasma more. Have a look at this. This is cut with a 1mm disc. It's lovely and beautiful and clean, and it's a straight line. And this here is cut with a plasma, and it's basically just a manky, rough ass line, which is okay in some situations. Like if you've got a lot of grinding to do and you're going to clean that edge up anyway, sweet, plasma it, because you just need to knock it out and then you'll clean it up later. However, if you want a nice clean straight edge, for us it's much faster and easier to actually achieve that with a grinder most of the time. Our plasma is a cheap little wee thing, and it doesn't leave the nicest of edges. It comes down to skill. However, whoever's using it, you know, is basically the determination as to how clean that edge is going to be. That said, we could go and spend a lot of money and get a really beautiful plasma that leaves an absolutely perfect line, but for the amount of times that we use it, it's not money well spent. It's just a waste of money in our case. So we're better off to have a cheap little plasma for those few times that we need it, and then do the grinding when we need to do any sort of cutting work that has to be accurate. I've also gone through and cleaned up around the edge here, stress relieve these welds as well, so it's a wee bit hard to show on the camera, but I've ground the welds out around the corners mainly so that there's no sort of undercut or anything like that. There wasn't really undercut on it anyway. I was pretty careful when I was welding, but yeah, we just want to make sure that there's just no chance for those to pull off. As a couple of people have pointed out to us, cracks start in the corner where you haven't stress relieved them, so we like to make sure we do that with any sort of structural work. And if you're not aware of what stress relieving steel is, basically when you weld, you're melting away parent metal. So if you're welding, say, these 25mm blocks onto the flat deck of Brupeg, if you put too much heat into it and stay in one spot for too long, you'll make a basically a divot will come out of the metal that you're trying to weld to the deck. So if that ever happens, that's called undercut, and if that ever happens, you need to basically take the divot off so that you've got no sort of, no undercut, no basically dig into that steel. So you have to essentially make it as a nice radius, smooth piece of steel, because that way cracks won't necessarily happen on anything that's radiused and round. They'll happen on sharp edges where it's easy to peel away from, one metal from the other. I have to push these sliders up through that hole in the roof. So what I'm thinking of doing, I've got a piece of 3mm just clamped on like that, and that's going to stop them from obviously falling out the side of the boat. So don't know if they're going to fit yet. I don't know if I've cut that slot big enough, and I'm assuming I'm going to have to trim it as I go. So what I've got my grinder and everything ready to go. What I'll do, I'll sit them on the ground here and then push them up through that hole, and hopefully that'll allow me to fit it through. Otherwise we're going to have to do some trimming.
Look what Damien's done. It's through. Incredible.
It cuts me a hole.
Beautiful. So you can see where it sits, those beautiful M30 studs. Look at that. Gorgeous. Now it's all about timing. So Dame's at that point where he's got to tack this in, and then he's going to lift the arms, check everything works. But what we're thinking is that this needs to be welded. See, it's only tacked here on the joint. It needs to be fully welded, and this needs to be blasted, sandblasted. So we're thinking we're going to pull it down. We're going to, Dane's going to properly weld, sandblast, and then we'll tack, and then we'll weld in. Just because it's got to get done, and if he tacks now, pulls it off, it's just doubling up. So that's what's next. I just wanted to show you this too. We're putting in vertical stiffeners. So Dane's going to take this piece out here, this rib, and that's going to join across, and there's going to be a stiffener. There's going to be a stiffener here. It's going to come out a little bit further. You can see them, if you look down there, you can see them right along. We've actually enclosed these ones here. They were actually just the piece on the side. And the other one, there's going to be another one here where the other slider is here, so that's going to really stiffen it up. It's going to make it really strong, and of course this here will come across and join, so this will be really enclosed. The only thing that will be open is this gap here. It is early morning. What's today? Tuesday. It's Tuesday early morning, and we just received notice of an amazing donation.
We had a little challenge with our drill press, and that it didn't want to be a drill press anymore. It wanted to just be a collection of parts that didn't do anything.
I love that thing.
It is a beast.
It's gorgeous.
Anyway, we got an email from Mark Schlakier, I think. Correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Mark. And he said that he'd love to contribute. He's been watching us since the early days when Doug at SV Seeker, told everybody about us and all that sort of stuff. And he said he wanted to contribute, and he offered to buy us a mag drill. So we have a mag drill now coming on its way. So it'll be here shortly. And it's going to be a bloody amazing addition to the boat because we get to take that with us. The drill press was always going to be a bit of a challenge in the engine room, because it's a big beast and all that sort of stuff. But the mag drill is pretty much just as capable, but it's way more portable. It can go anywhere on the boat, and big magnetic, you can glue it to the boat. Think of it like a drill press, small drill press with a magnetic base. So you can stick it on the cabin or the side of the hull or anywhere you need to, crank up the magnet, and it essentially bonds itself to the boat, then put the hole in and then undo the magnet and off you go. So,
I've never seen one used. I'm really looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, they're awesome little beasts.
Yeah, and so timely.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
I really don't think that the drill piece is going to go the distance.
No.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, it's
an
amazing.
incredible donation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So when it gets here, we'll do some testing. We'll show you guys what this thing's capable of doing.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks. So
perfect for this sort of
it's just brilliant.
expedition work, eh?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So
you never know when you're going to need to punch a hole through the side of the hull.
You got eyes like summer sky. If you're smart, could kill or die. And now it starts to rain, so let's enjoy it.